How awesome do these drums sound, right?
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Who's here? Anyway, these are beautiful. These are classic maple drums. I guess are right out of the box. Now it's just finished. I don't think it'd be any prettier. I mean, it's just like, come on, you know. I'm a huge fan of classic drums, the new classics, which is new from, I mean, basically it's the classic Ludwig sound, really. So this drum set is gorgeous. So we'll talk more about that. But anyway, I hope you're digging on it as much as I am. The next tune I'm going to play is, that vibe was kind of a little more open, kind of like 70s, kind of, you know, it kind of was flexible from a verse to a chorus. There was no click when I auditioned for that band. It was like, you know, listen to Mick Jones because he's going to play it the way he's played it for 30-something years, you know what I mean? So there's no click, it's loose, it pushes in the choruses, it pulls or it moves, and you got to be able to do that consistently. So that's kind of something that's unique to that stuff. And this is all to a click, you know, but the vibe is I'm trying to make it swing, okay? And we'll talk more about that, okay? Where I put the beat. And that was something that he dug about my audition and what helped me get the gig with Foreigner and with him is that he loved how it felt organic and swung even though there's a click going the whole time. And so we'll talk about that more as we go. You can hear how I try to do that with this tune, but still keep it scary and tight. This might be a little loud. You may and way more double bass, and then there were tunes that were way prettier and a lot of 6/8 and vibey stuff. So that gig covered a lot of ground, but it was all to a click. I promise for those of you who thought that was really loud and nasty, I will play just as pretty of a tune in a minute. Just bear with me and make up for it. Anyway, to show the difference of what I'm required to do. This is one more tune I'll play for you guys, and then we'll take a little break and I'll start talking about some stuff that I've kind of thought about and answer in this clinic, kind of questions I get asked constantly in emails and Facebooks and young drummers, professionals, you name it, ask me a lot of the same questions. And so after a while, I started thinking about it, put it together, some answers hopefully, and I'll discuss that in here and answer any questions you guys got. And then there's more stuff to play. And anyway, this is a tune. When I was in Foreigner, there was a drum solo, there was a keyboard solo and a drum solo. And in the drum solo, it was basically a guy, a keyboard player, Michael Bluestein, great player, would come out, play keys, and then he'd split. The drummer would come out and do a drum solo, and then he'd go into Urgent? Jukebox Hero. Urgent, I think. Anyway, one of those billion hits that they had, and it doesn't matter. And anyway, so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we did a little thing together, think outside the box, and I'll come out midway between and we'll play a little solo together. And that's where this came from, the inspiration from this. And this is basically a piece I kind of came up with, wrote based on Foreigner songs that were B-sides and sped up, double-timed or half-timed. And so if you're a Foreigner fan, you might recognize something in here, but probably not. But anyway, this is a little solo that I wrote for this. And for clinics, kind of fun to show a little bit of the different side of my playing. You know, to be fair, I actually do a drum solo in just about every band I play in. And in some cases, I do many drum solos. In fact, in Smash Mouth, I play 3 a night, which is kind of amazing, really. You know, I used to think, you know, you don't need to play drum solos anymore. The 70s are over and the 80s. And Chris Cornell, I played 3 drum solos a night with Chris Cornell, which is crazy to think about. Once he figured out I could do drum solos, he would just be like, yeah, and unlike with Smash Mouth, where the singer goes and like takes a break and has a cigarette and changes his shirt, Cornell would sit right on the side of the stage and just stare at me and be like egging me on. So it's pretty funny if you watch any videos, Cornell would just set himself right over here and just, he was like the biggest fan, which is kind of awesome. So anyway, this is a drum solo with keyboard accompaniment. Hope you dig it. I taught the Blue Knights with Ralph Hardiman. I ended up getting an assistantship to teach the Hurricane drumline, which was a big deal back then. The football team was actually good. And so that basically, drumline basically paid for my college, which is like pretty weird to think about, right? This snare drumming basically paid for my college. All of it, a lot of it. So kind of weird. So hopefully I don't suck right now when I play this. Anyway, this is a snare solo called Hands of Doom. And anything can happen, so let's see what happens. Texas. I played in that drum line. I marched drum corps with the Skyriders. I taught the Blue Knights with Ralph Hardiman. I ended up getting an assistantship to teach the Hurricane drum line, which was a big deal back then. The football team was actually good. And so that basically, drum line basically paid for my college, which is like pretty weird to think about, right? Snare drum, this snare drumming basically paid for my college. All of it, a lot of it. So kind of weird. So hopefully I don't suck right now when I play this. Anyway, this is a snare solo called Hands of Doom. And anything can happen, so let's see what happens. At me, and I'm like, I gotta get better. I gotta make it the drum line. And I really spent a lot of time with this with Jim Riley from the Rascal Flatts. We were in the drum line together. Keith Carlock played the snare line with me from Steely Dan. I could go on and on. How many pro drummers were in that drum line with me before? Matt Chamberlain from was in the snare line a year before me. I mean, there's so many cats. I'm missing a lot of names, but who were just pro players who marched drum corps, and they basically ate their vegetables and got dessert, okay? So it's like, you know, spending that time of really getting good at something. This is another example of diversifying. And once you really look around that corner, you spend that time, you're able to apply it to here. You're not only able to apply it, what's most important is you're learning how to learn. And learning how to learn is something nobody ever talks about, but you're learning something, whether it be this or bass guitar or whatever. The better you get at learning that, you start to figure out your mind wraps around how to assimilate and quickly become convincing on this instrument. And the more you do that, again, comfort zone, the more you're able to apply it here. And when you get music that is challenging, like this Japanese stuff I'm getting, I've learned how to learn it. Okay, so I've learned how to. My brain can now wrap around it. It's like you become. Your brain is like a muscle, and the more you use it, the better you get. And the more you spend on something and really try to perfect it. the more it's going to make you a better player and ultimately help your career. So it's funny though, because that's the heavy part of it. And otherwise, it's just fun, and it's like, wow, how cool, right? How many people can play a snare drum solo? Not that many people walk up and play a snare drum solo. So it's fun to get to do that and chop out on it. And I'm not saying I'm like some drum corps guy now. I did it at one point. But anyway, the point is when I get the audition with Marilyn Manson, it's through a manager, through a series of events of different people. So I go there, and I go to the audition, and it's like, okay, you're going to play to an iPod. You're going to put on an iPod, you're going to have to learn 6 songs, and I had to learn them that day. It was just a nightmare how much stuff I had to learn. I'm stressed out. They're like, oh yeah, you need to bring your drums too. And I have all this stuff, and then as I'm coming over there, I think to myself, what am I going to look like? Like, what am I going to look like? This is like the Prince of Evil, you know what I mean? Like darkness incarnate, and I'm like, what am I going to dress like? I got to look cool, right? You know? So I throw on a V-neck t-shirt, I don't know why, black V-neck t-shirt, and some boots, and, should I put on eyeliner, or, no, I didn't. But, so I get down there, and Manson, I guess, is sitting in his house maybe an hour or two before the audition, and he's hanging out with this bass player who knew who I was, and who had also put in a good word for me. And he said, who is this guy we're going to hear anyway? And he has this giant screen on his, on his wall. And he's like, oh, well, I'll show you some YouTubes of him. And so he watched a few YouTubes. And so when I'm in there and I'm all like freaking out, and in walks Manson, and he walks in, he's like, oh, look who's here. He's like, Mr. Magic Hands. It turned out he had watched the snare drum solo and loved it. There's a YouTube snare drum solo, which is funny because as you guys watch it, when I did it, I wasn't even really that comfortable with playing the snare solo. I was working it up with a great director friend of mine. I was like, I got a camera, I'm in LA, let's film something. And so we shot this, and of course there's like 120 views when I just do not even have it together yet. And so it's called Rudimental if you look it up. And of course there are other versions where I actually play it right. But so anyway, he saw that, and that was the icebreaker with Marilyn Manson. A rudimental snare drum solo, okay? So think about that, right? So when I'm talking about diversifying, you never know what is going to lead to what. So if you would have told me I would have gotten a gig with the Prince of Darkness, no, I'm kidding, by doing it, but whatever, it helped break the ice, and that in an audition, that's a huge thing, is to break the ice. So anyway, you're pushing because you're nervous, right? Sure. Other times you're dragging because when you're playing with we're talking about choir in church, yeah. Well, that's a whole different animal because you've got all these people singing in different times, and usually you get a bunch of people singing, and it starts to pull you back, right? And your job is to be the traffic cop to go, no, I'm over here, come on, we're going this way, And that's my job in an audition too, when you go in. Where do you put that beat? That's your feel, okay? And it's kind of funny with these auditions when you go in, people dread auditions, but really all they want is they want you to get the gig. They want you to get the gig. Everyone goes in with an attitude like, oh, I'm going to suck, and this is going to be terrible, and my life's over, and it's like so many people go in with that, and really it's like, look at it the way that what's the reality is, they just want you to come in and be great. They can't wait to give you the gig. They don't want to have to play with 20 other guys, right? They can't wait for you to nail it. So just make it easy on them, do your homework, okay? And that has to do with paying attention to playing with a click, your feel. It's funny when I ask these guys at other auditions, I say like, so how were the auditions? A buddy of mine, when I'm not involved, and I'll say like, how was it? How were the drummers? Well, this guy was really awesome, but man, he just kind of like, this guy was a little light the whole time, and we just kind of got into it, and teeth, and this dude was great, but he was kind of pushing, it's like he never relaxed. And this dude came in and it was just right. It's like the 3 little bears, you know what I mean? It's like, and this guy came in and it was just right. And you want to be the dude, and once you come in and put all those pieces together, you're listening, you're reacting, you're playing traffic cop, like come with me, and then when you know when to let them take control, the singer, you're listening to all that. The more you practice like that, the more you put yourself in those situations, like I said earlier, the more that you can start to hear it, and you can kind of know when to direct and when to push and pull, when to play harder, when to play softer, and you don't have to do it on the spot. Because all it is listening, which is all music is really, it's just about using your ears as a player and as a listener, right? That's really what it is we so often forget about those things, you know what I mean? So, in your case, you're new to playing with the click, so you gotta spend some time with it, you know what I mean? But I think that's a good question because you do have to spend time with it, be aware of those situations. Are they pulling me? If they are, I need to stay ahead because you give them an inch and they're going to take a mile, right? Sure. Manson used to go out every night and he would forget the lyrics, right? He would forget the lyrics, so he'd just be like in the same song every night. And then we come back, take maybe a month off, then we go out again and it would be a new song, and you just choose to like screw that part up, come in like a beat late. And I'm the drummer, everything's to a click. and there's all these like, wah, you know, like crazy sounds and stuff. So I'm like, we gotta be there, you know? And so that was not a picnic, you know? It was my job was to land the plane after every song, you know what I mean? Like through the storm, you know? Like he'd go that way and everybody else would go with him because they didn't want to get yelled at. And it was like, no, it's over here, dudes. Come on back, you know? So I had to like, you know, meanwhile I'm trying to remember where I am, so I don't go with them. It was a mess. And part of the deal was afterwards I always had to admit that it was my fault. It was like, yeah, it's fine. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. But
and it's two parts. One was kind of like, how do I get better at sort of trafficking, directing everyone. The second issue that I'm running into is that I've noticed on our Avion system, I just have that click all cranked up and everything's sort of very low, and I just have the click because I'm just so now paranoid of just keeping. Well, that's
great.
Time.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I've noticed since I've been doing that, or because of that, I'm not as musical as I think I am. I don't have that feel as you were talking about, because now I'm sort of.
That's a good point, because you can be right, but you can be dead right. Okay? And I've had that too, where it's like, I'm over here, and then you listen to the recording, it's like, yeah, you're over there, all right. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, everybody's here and you're here, and that's not cool. Right. So you have to find that balance. I've been there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What were some of the things that you discovered during your journey of?
Well, record yourself. Record yourself. When you're playing to a click, record yourself. If you're playing with your choir, record every single performance you do. You know, everything you do. When I was in college, I got lucky and I started playing. My dad for Christmas gave me, it was called a tape recorder. It actually had a tape recorder. And he gave me this really high-end recording tape recorder. It's an antique thing. Actually, we probably have one in the back, maybe, with a vintage. Anyway, and so I had this, and I would literally, you know, I wouldn't tell anybody, you know, just turn it on, and I would listen every night, excruciating. I would listen every single performance, and then eventually, and I hated what I heard, and eventually it was like, oh, I don't mind that guy, you know, and then eventually it was like, that dude's pretty good, you know, that dude, I actually like that dude, you know. I would remember to grab something here, but you know, you start listening to that, and more you go, you know what, man, that actually sounds pretty good. It sucks at first, but you have to do it, you know. You have to do that to get better, and that's how you'll do it. You'll hear yourself pushing, you'll hear yourself pulling, you'll hear it tearing, and those are the spots you can even make notes where you should be ready to push it. Because like I said, it can be an incremental thing, and you start pushing and pulling. That's what I was saying with Foreigner. The real gift, and with Manson, is where you can push that, eventually you can put that bass drum right on the beat. I like to put the bass drum right on the beat and pull that snare drum back about an inch of whatever you call it, right? And then I use the hi-hat from there to move and push and pull and create tension. And that's something I would normally talk about in here, but we have so many good questions I'm not going to have time to. And probably, you know, you guys we're having fun here, right? So we don't need to talk about that technical stuff. You're kind of covering it, right? But I normally really get into that because that's important, especially if I'm at a college or something where I've got like a lot of college kids who are more technically, you know, but because that's an important thing, is that push and pull and that relationship, and that's what makes bottom. And that's what makes these guys, it's their feel. And if you ask the best drummers in LA, Kurt Pescara, Toss Panos, Josh Freese, any of these great players, they're not going to be able to describe how they play their feel. They're not. They just don't. They just do it. Jim Keltner. But one of the best compliments I ever got with Manson was after a show we were on tour with Slayer, and Dave Lombardo came up afterwards and he was like, dude, he's like, I toured with the other band, you know, with the old guys, and he's like, man, it's a whole new band. He's like, dude, every song swings. And that's like coming from Dave Lombardo, man. He's like the sickest metal drummer, but he swings when he plays. There's a reason why Slayer sounds so good. It's not all the guitars and the speed and all that. He swings. He's got a pocket. And with that music that's so metallic and to a grid, he's still got this beautiful flow. So it shows that feel is everywhere. It doesn't matter what kind of music you're playing. And to get that compliment from him was like the best thing I could have heard, because I'm playing to a grid. I'm playing to a click. Literally, the whole show starts and it's all a click. And so to be able to make it swing, where he doesn't know that I'm playing to a click, or he knows I'm playing to a click, but it still feels good, that's what you're going for. So you need to be, that's something as a drummer, no matter what you're doing, it should feel good. And hopefully throughout these different examples, I'm covering different ways of describing how you could try to make it feel good without going into the whole middle section that we're going to skip here, so I can cover some other stuff that no one would cover. Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely, thank you.
And my thumb, the actual meat of your thumb, not down here, but actually the meat of your thumb, that's really your fulcrum. And the fulcrum is a balance point. These are sticks that are actually really specially designed. They're not just like, throw my name on a pair of 5Bs and, you know, we'll call it a day. I actually really spent time with Regal Tip. I got to compliment them. They really made a great stick. And somebody else earlier was like, I like your stick. And I was like, I do too. You know, I really love these sticks. I'll be playing, I'll just be like, I love these sticks, you know? And there's a reason, there's a balance to these sticks. They help play themselves. They really have a balance. And that was something that was really important with the drumline, you know, having that balance, you know, have that control, but yet I want to be able to hit. So sticks are just as important as your grip. What kind of sticks are you using are really going to dictate the music you're making. In fact, I think in some cases your implements might be more important. And you'll see cats like Matt Chamberlain playing. He uses a molar stroke, and your grip will change, say, if you're using, say, on the snare, an upstroke. So say there's a bunch of different techniques. So okay, too technical here. You have basically what, that's kind of like an up or down stroke, depending on how you're looking at it. Down or upstroke, okay? But then there's also a molar stroke, and these are just two of a million ideas. A molar stroke where, and you'll see that's kind of how I tend to play, but I also use that upstroke, and that will change your feel. If I'm in one section of a song, I can play a verse with all arm, which Alex Van Halen does all the time, you know, or like great, like Creed's Clearwater, Doug Clifford will just be like, just laying on it, you know, which goes great with the guitar. So many drummers play this accent all the time, right? But not all music has that accent, that quarter note feel. Some music has jing, 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 you know, Unchained, Van Halen, right? Just pounding all those notes. It's like, why is this song so sexy? That's why. You know what I mean? That feel, that what he's doing. So that isn't even a stroke I use, right? But on here I use it all the time. So your grip is important, but the more I spend time making music, I think it's important to go with your fulcrum. Basically, the grip I basically use is, my fulcrum is here, and I'll wrap my fingers around the stick. But what's amazing is depending on what music I play, I'll have calluses appear in different spots. Because I'm using, I'll go home and I'm like, God, this knuckle hurts. Why the hell does this knuckle hurt? And it's like, oh, it's because I'm playing a different style of music, and I'm using this all of a sudden for that music. So I feel like as I get older, it doesn't really matter. And when I first record that thing, you'll watch when I'm doing the drumline thing, that awful video that follows me around and has like 1 billion hits on it. Like my pinky sticks out for a second. Every little drumline guy is like, pinky in the left hand. Stick this in his ear. You know? And it's like, yeah, dude, but like, you know, I got a bunch of works, right? You know? Yeah. You know, it's like, sure, okay. You know, when you move out of your mom's house, you can call me, all right? But anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so there's the little like that technical thing that you don't really, doesn't really matter after a while. When I was studying with that, so I would play, and if I dropped a stick, because it was all molar, it was good luck. It was like a fairy gets its wings or something. You know what I mean? It was like good luck. Like you drop a stick, and it's like, that was good luck. And when you watch Matt Chamberlain play, sticks are flying out of his hand all the time. He's just like, it's like he's used to it because it's become an organic part of his playing. So, and his pinkies are here, and his, you know, so I don't think there is really a right way at this point. You know what I mean? I think you should study, and you should learn every single stroke, down stroke. You should learn snare drum, A2s. You should be able to play a great buzz roll. I'm still working on it. I really am. And you should learn molar and everything in between, and then you should forget it all and never think about it and just try to play music. That's what I think you should do. Anyway, you got a question?
Yeah, I have, if I'm starting the song, my grip is fine, but at the middle, I'm pushing my...
Well, that could be the nerves thing, or you know, you're excitable. And there's sometimes where I'll finish playing a show and I'll go like, man, I was totally out of control there. And there's that too. And that's a whole other discussion, if that makes sense. Yeah?
What this gentleman asked was first over about grip. And I noticed when I watched you work your wrist, I can see your tendon up in your arm. When your blood's flowing, it's feeling good, and you're climaxing, it's all working out, and your ideas are popping in your head. Do you still feel tension points come on up?
Oh, dude, you have no idea, man. I mean, practicing this stuff, oh yeah, man.
I mean,
totally.
My teacher's telling me the right thing, you gotta be relaxed, you gotta catch the rebound, and I try to relax and catch the rebound, and I still feel the tension points come up, and that's never gonna change?
No, I wouldn't say it won't ever change, but to me, you know, physically, depending on how much you play, you know, like I remember going to see a doctor right before I got my paper. Yeah, and the doctor was like, you're never gonna, as you get older, you're always going to have these, you are, you know, and I've learned to live with it, you know what I mean? And I had really bad tendonitis from playing tennis right before Foreigner. It was like, here's a gig of a lifetime, and it's like, I can barely play drums. It was a nightmare. And the doctor was like, you're probably always gonna have a problem from that, you know? And he's kind of right. I do have that tension. I learned how to control it. You know, if it's gonna rain, the pressure on you, you know, you can feel it. It's like, oh, it's gonna rain, you know, you can feel it, you know. So you just gotta get used to it, man, you know. But he told me one thing. He said, you know, like think about Michael Jordan. That dude's body is in pain most of his life. The amount of activity he's doing and strenuous pulling and all that. Most athletes live in pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, and it kind of made sense. And it's like, oh yeah, these were all the best in LA, like dudes who deal with Michael Jordan, guys I was going to. Yeah, it's just, that's what you do. But the best part about it, when I got the Foreigner gig, this is awesome. I get the Foreigner gig and I'm like, man, I don't know what to do, man. My arms are so screwed. I might not be able to do this tour. And I get the gig and I'm like, you know, I kind of eventually had to I could barely play, you know, but I got the audition and it just got worse. And I'm learning all these songs and I was like, man, I gotta be honest, man, I got like really bad tendonitis. So, you know, if I kind of play it light, and they're like, oh, no problem, I got a thing in my knee, man. And like, they're all like old cats. They're like, oh man, I got just the guy. No, my guy's better. No, believe you. I'll recommend you to Frankie. He'll listen to you. So it was amazing. Like, of all other bands, they'd be like, I don't know, dude, we gotta probably get another drummer. This guy's not gonna be able to hang for it. It was like, dude, we all got problems. So that made it easier. But anyway, real quick, I'm gonna try to do because I want to play. This is another thing I thought, you know, man, I'm gonna bring this stuff out in this class because you never see these things and you never see anybody use them, and people are terrified of them. But these are called wire brushes, okay? And wire brushes aren't just for jazz anymore. They're really an exciting tool. Most drumsticks we have, you create a staccato note, a singular note. But with brushes, you can create a beautiful legato, long note, like a trumpet player or a horn player. And drummers tend to just be terrified of these things, you know? When they played, you know, the unplugged thing, it was like you would be caught dead. Like all these great drummers could play with these, but instead they use blastics because those were like, oh, I can like still play like a monkey and sound quiet, you know? And so with these, though, there's so many timbres and tones and expressiveness. And with today's music, with like more Americana and pop music and kind of thinking outside the box, these are such a great tool. So to old or young, man, don't be afraid to pick up a pair of these and experiment with them. And they're not going to happen overnight, you know. Great record to play along because Miles Davis kind of put that thing on, put on some incense, turn the lights down. You know? But it is kind of like a meditative thing. I would practice every day in my practice room. I'd show up probably about 9 o'clock in North Texas before classes and go in and just play for an hour with like the lights off and play like these beautiful Jimmy Cobb and this you know, Miles Davis stuff. And my last few years at North Texas, I studied brushes only with Ed Soap until one day he said, all right, that's it, no more brushes, you're there. And to this day, I take lessons with, when I can, with one of the true greats, Jeff Hamilton, who's one of the best jazz drummers in the world. And brush guys, if you don't know him, look him up. He's super amazing, and I think I begged him for like 3 years until he finally said yes. I was like following him in the bathrooms at NAMM. He was like, no, you know. And finally one day he was like, sure, kid, you know. So anyway, he has a brush that's for sale. Probably you guys probably have. It's an amazing brush. This is my brush that I'm going to just talk about really quick. I'm really excited about it. When I was out with Regal Tip, there's a classic brush that truly is the first brush that was really ever really marketed, called the Classic. It's called the 583R. And it's a beautiful brush that we all grew up in. Every company, whoever they are, they modeled their brush after that. Okay, you gotta give credit to Regal Tip. When they asked me, when I was around the time I was studying with Jeff Hamilton, his brushes, the gauge is very thick. The gauge of the metal is very thick, but it's really a big sound. It gives all this beautiful sound, but it doesn't have the flex that I'm used to from those 583Rs. But after playing with that, when I went back to those regular brushes, they sound like paper. And when I hear someone playing with them, it just sounded like there was nothing there. And so they called me and they said, we want you to design a brush. We want there to be a hip, you know, rock and roll brush. And they were like, and I was like, I don't even know what to do, you know, but I was feeling that, wow, I wish there was something in the middle. So I said, how many gauges of wire are there between the Jeff Hamilton thick and the 583R thin Classic? And they said, wow, we've never thought about that. And they called me the next day and were like, we checked with the guys, there's one gauge. And I was like, that's my brush. And they sent it to me, and it was like, I've been super in love with these ever since. And I know a billion great jazz drummers who don't endorse Regal Tip who use this brush, which is like the coolest thing. A dude played them on the Grammys last year, who's a Vic Firth guy. So, and they're blue, so you can play faster. You know. So anyway, that's this brush, so check them out. They're great for like train beats or heavier stuff because they don't break, they don't bend as much. They're more durable, but then they give a bigger sound, but they still have the flex. And you still get this big, sweeping, full sound. They have more like stick-like qualities than the 583R, but they still have the flex there in the middle there. So it's really a unique instrument. I'm really proud of it. And Yeah, it's just a cool thing. It's called the Sutter. Carol Collado named it. So her dad named the drumstick, basically. There was never a 5A or 5B until he named it, Joe Collado. So giving credit to them, I guess I'll let Carol Collado call it the Sutter. Anyway, I'm going to play some brushes for you guys and hopefully teach you a quick lesson, and then we'll play maybe one more song and we'll be out of here. And everybody can get out before it's too late. So this is the jazz guy. This is I'm just going to play some brushes for you, and then we'll talk about it. Hope you dig it. It's called Up Jump Spring. This is a great bass player named Brett Simons, who plays with Dwight Yoakam, and a killer keyboard player who plays with Foreigner, Mike Bluestein. And it's called Up Jump Spring. It's in 3/4 time. Sorry, get these out of here. So check it out. This is just some kind of fun. This is more of a jazzy vibe, but so get ready. Here we go. Ready? This is where it gets to another level of timeless gear. Pizza box. Anyway, this is Dan actually pulled this out. I never did this before, and I was worried because I thought, like, well, I'm supposed to represent Remo while I'm here, so we made sure to put a Remo sticker on there. You know, I thought I'd get in trouble with those guys if I'm doing brush stuff. But actually, normally on the drum, to give Remo credit, I use what's called this is an Emperor X coated, which sounds pretty great. But for brushes, really, there's nothing like, it's a new drum head called the Skin Tone. Totally recommend it. It's a very light drum head. I know you can special order it. It's not common in stores, but if you get it, I have a Skin Tone on a snare drum, and I've had it on for 3 years. And I play brushes every day, and it sounds just as good as it did. It's kind of insane. They probably shouldn't have made it. Probably why they don't send it out there, because they want to break them and buy new heads, and I will never have to probably replace this. So check out the Skin Tone. It's dope. But this is actually kind of fun. I did a video with this too, if you haven't seen it. It's on YouTube. We're actually playing the pizza box. It's kind of a cool thing. If you look up my name in brushes, you'll see this thing, which is really cool. So Dana brought this in. So it's kind of fun, but you can actually cool, right? Pizza box, okay? I used to do this in college, though. You know, I would come out, we would play in Dallas. It was when, like, busking wasn't cool. It wasn't cool yet, you know? And so in Dallas, it would be like a sax player and an upright bass player, and I'd bring this thing out and literally put it on my lap and sit down on, like, a park bench, and we would play jazz in a park or wherever. It was kind of a cool thing to get to just kind of hang out, and that sounds pretty great. And if you're just doing this, and you're going to play a bossa nova, or a samba, right? You got to really get your chops together, or a backbeat. Right? A million different sounds you can get out of this thing, but you got to really get your brush stuff together. So this is a great way to do it, but it sounds really pleasant, right? So I'm going to give you a real quick brush lesson here so you can leave here maybe being inspired to grab some brushes, and don't be afraid. I'm going to show you, you'll literally now, you can say, well, I don't know how to play brushes. When you leave, you can say, I don't know how to play brushes, okay? So basically, check out this sheet. There's a couple different sounds that you got to brush with a brush. Basically, it's a tap where you kind of just tap with the tip of the brush, and part of it is actually hitting, but you're not dropping it, you're actually snapping it and getting that little tap from the edge of the brush, right, like that, just here. I usually hold the brush where that wire is, like in the back of my hand. I hold pretty far back here where that ball is at my traditional grip. And I normally play match grip, but I studied traditional too, so I kind of can't give that up with my brushes. So that's kind of how I kind of hold far back, right? So it's more of like an extension. There's not a lot of room in there, you know? A tap, a thump, which is like you're basically pushing the brush on the head, and then a sweep, where you're really just pulling the brush along the drum. So those are the three main sounds, and that's really kind of all you have to perfect, and then you go from there. Somebody told me a great quote about I think Ed Thigpen said, basically said, what's one of your best quick lessons with brush playing? He said, well, the more your brushes stay on the drum, the more you're going to work. Which I think is a pretty great little eloquent little thing, right? The more the brushes stay on the drum, the more you're playing the pattern rather than what I was just doing over here. No, I'm kidding. But I was trying to demonstrate a bunch of different stuff. But normally if I was playing, I would keep that real simple, and keep the time real. So here's our pattern, our first pattern. If you look at that very first exercise, right, down to the second half, the very first exercise is basically a tap stroke. And all a tap stroke is simply that. You're basically playing, you're tapping with that tap stroke from one side, okay, almost like a tennis ball bouncing back and forth on like a little playing field, right? And then basically I'm playing a circle. I'm using mostly my wrist. You notice my arm is not moving that much, because that's going to give me more sustain, right? You want to keep your hands real low to the drum. And so from here, I add that brush pen. And I keep this left hand, and this kind of can be whatever you want it to be. And there's kind of a hat, it's kind of like a semicircle, or actually more like almost like an oval, right? Like a football. But it could be a circle too, depending on how much time you got. So mess with it, right? But that's it. That's all there is to it. It's just this. And notice I'm using mostly my wrist. There's very little arm. And you want to keep it low, and you want it to be very as much sustained as you can, and then just start quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, till 1, 2, till 3, 4, till 1. And you can put a little more. That's almost like I'm getting a little sweep on there on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now Lewis used to do that all the time. He barely flew his brushes. Kind of, but you get that nice little emphasis on 2 and 4, and then go faster. And faster. But if you get into real slow beats, right, and this is where you really separate the real beauty of brushes, and really get to what Ed Figman was talking about. Even though Ed Figman was more of a tap player. He was more of a tap player. And if you play real fast, your circle gets smaller. Can't believe I'm playing on a pizza box. Anyway, it's cool though. It's like the old days. Remember that? Anyway, so this is sweep strokes. So that's our next stroke here where you're going to learn. And it's basically, we're starting at 3 and 9. Okay, right here on a clock, right? I start clock right here, and basically on the drum, 3 and 9. And you're just going to basically do these half moons that you see how I've illustrated there. It looks like a little cell mitosis in biology. The cell splits and creates life. No, but so from here we basically move, and you're basically just kind of hovering around 12 and 6, right? 12 and 6, and as you're turning here, you're turning here. And it's kind of yin-yang kind of thing, right? But it's all in here. Cool? But the more relaxed, if you're just doing this, it's never going to have that flow. You want this flow. You want it to sound almost like running water, because that's really what it's like. And the best way I tell students to practice is go in a swimming pool and just move your arms over each other like this. Just like that. That's all you're doing. In a swimming pool, your hands will automatically be pulled this way. And by doing that, you're getting the most surface area on the drum. You know what I mean? Hamilton calls it scooping the rice. You know, you're pulling around like that. And that's what you're doing here. So you want to, if you can, put on kind of blue, you know? And just try to, keep the brushes low. And I'm just doing half moons here. And I'm turning at 12 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now the beauty of this stroke is now I put that buff on there, and check it out. 1. You get this beautiful little pulse, right? Piano players are going to love you for this, okay? Because most brush players don't know what they're doing. And all I'm doing is a little like skipping a stone. I'm just throwing it around. When I throw it, I pull it around, I just put a little more pressure and pull it back around. It's very organic. The more relaxed you are, the more fluid will sound. Again, you want to get this first. And you can get away with this. A high 1, 3. You play that, some of the best brush players, that was their brush pattern. Just sustained in, it sounded like $1 million. Elvin Jones would do it sometimes. It sounded like $1 million. But there's our quarter, right? How nice does that sound, right? 2, 3, 4. Now 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I'm just bringing this left in, and you can start. Triplets. It's like a paintbrush. Is our staccato pattern, right? We started. But if I could, I could play a whole song like that, right? Or I could play this. that whole song like that. No swing. Maybe in a minute. I used to be able to do it. And then break it up. That's mine. Just remember you heard it here.
Sweet.
Actually, I got these brushes, and actually that little lick, I'd never done that ever in my life. And I got these brushes, and literally the night I got these brushes, they sent me a prototype. I played that. I was like, I was inspired to play that. And I've since played it for like, you know, like Stan Moore's like, what do you got, dude? And I'll just be like, well, how about this? It's just like, that's it. That's all I gotta do. It's like mushroom cloud, that, this. Boom. So, yeah, and even Hamilton, I did for Hamilton, he's like, I like that. And he's the dude who's like, no, you can't do. He's like, I like that. So, anyway, that's the Sutter Flutter. Somebody named it. Sutter Flutter. So, and then you can do two. On this angle, that's the excuse. But anyway, if you do here, like a rough, you know, Anyway, kind of fun. But that's just a little technique. You can just go on and on and on, and you know, you can do a whole. Like a samba. Right? That swings. Right? A million different things you can do with brushes. So check them out. They're up there. We got them. They're called the Sutter. I'll sign them if you want. But brushes, they're cool, man. And there's so many things you can do. So and pizza boxes are free. So I'm gonna play one more tune here. That's the brush. Hopefully you guys got this wonderful educator. We marched drum corps together, and he teaches at high schools in Texas. And in Texas, man, they got some mean. Well, they got all these North Texas drumline instructors and stuff that come in. They just got some mean percussion programs. So he said, "Hey, man, this is a tune I'd love to have you play with our kids and work it up with a big percussion ensemble." I was like, "Oh, that'd be great." And I was like, "What is it?" And he was like, "Oh, it's this tune by Bill Bruford." And I was like, "Oh man, this is scary." But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, if all these high school kids can play it, I gotta, bone up. So anyway, this is a tune Bill Bruford recorded with Alan Holdsworth and a bunch of great people. This isn't demoing this track. This is actually a track I have separate, a tune called Beelzebub. And Beelzebub, if you don't know what it means, is the devil. Okay, because basically this tune is the devil. It's literally in the verses are in 9/8. And this can go up a little bit. Bump this up to back to this is the B tune. I think.
Yeah, this is the one that goes right.
Yeah, and basically the chorus is actually in 19/8. It's a bar 5, bar 4, bar 4, bar 4. And so is that 19? 17. 17/8. I don't even remember. Anyway, I just got asked to do this again and went down and played this again, and man, it is a bear. So it's fun to play in clinics because basically this again talks about playing with feel, okay? Even though it's very metronomic and the meters are changing constantly. I mean, literally, it's just crazy. When you're playing this with a percussion ensemble, all it takes is one kid to start hitting the wrong 16th note and everybody talk about a night train wreck. So anyway, it's a really fun tune Bruford wrote in the late 70s. Check it out if you can get to those records. Really great fusion. And it's basically, it shows that, like when I got the gig with Soundgarden, with Chris Cornell, we had to play a lot of Soundgarden tunes, and to be fair, I didn't bother counting any of the songs because I knew that they weren't counting the songs. So if they're not counting, I'm going to stay in that music so I can keep the feel of that jam, right? And in this case, this is something where, you know, again, that diversity, being able to go there and use your ears, but in this case, I had to count to learn this music, okay? So there's different, depending on what you're doing, each musical situation is different. In this, hopefully it'll sound completely computerized, metronomic, because it is so crazy, the parts in the piece, but it should have a swing to it. It should still be musical, it should still feel, you know, like you could almost dance to 17/8. Anyway, I don't know what to say. Thanks so much, you guys, for coming out. This is so awesome. Oh yeah, this is what I meant to do, man. I never do this. Come on, I want to get a picture really quick here of everybody. I need to do this because this is such a good-looking crowd here, man. This is, I don't even know if I can get everybody in here. I can send this to Dana. Yeah, Dana's in there. This is awesome. Okay, everybody, like, hold up your hands like you're having a good time or something. Yeah, this rules. Of course, I can't get, oh wait, can I get like a panorama? Yeah, maybe I can. Let's do this. Ready? Here we go. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to try it. All right. I don't know if that worked or not, but I just did it. Anyway, I want to thank Ludwig, Peisty, Remo, Regal Tip, Canopus snare wires. I didn't talk about them yet. We're going to real quick. Ludwig drums, Peisty cymbals, DW hardware, Canopus snare wires. They are absolutely, truly, like, they'll entirely change your drum. I'm not kidding. I got hip to it. Carlock's using them now. All Bill Stewart, jazz dudes, Brian Blade. If you try them out, you will, I promise you, you will never use anything else. I'm a huge proponent of their snare wires. Their drums are amazing. There's a set of Canopus waiting to fall on your head right there. Those are amazing drums, too. Their drums, even on Ludwig, I don't have to sell Ludwig because they wrote the book, but Canopus is great drums, too. And so I want to thank Canopus because they're a wonderful company. And again, Dana and Dana Bentley Drum Shop, man. Come on, man. Woo! And thank you guys for all coming out, man. I mean, this is a great turnout, man. And you know, it's a lot of people don't care anymore, man. It's like, drums are fun. Let's have a good time. Did everybody have a good time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is another one where you can, it's like, this tune is just like, you know, cross your fingers, you know, hope you make it to the end with the rest of the band in this case. So this comes right out the gates. Let me make sure I got everywhere. All this stuff is for sale. These drums. These heads are used now, so maybe not. They come with the drums. Hardware, DW 9000 pedal, DW 9000 stands, sticks, brushes. Buy this stuff. Come up and check them out. When we're done here, feel free to check them out. I think the pizza box was like, I think 99 cents, but now that I played it, it's like $1,000. Okay, here we go. Beelzebub. Thanks again for coming out, you guys. And again, raffle, and then I'll come back and sign some stuff, sign those little posters if you want to take some pictures.